Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. Um, I know it's a short live, but I am going to be broadcast here from the great state of Texas this evening. And here is Funton Daniel. I want to thank all of you that are tuning in, looking at the issues that is rocking the Southern Cameroon territory, all Ambazonian. I know it's very briefly, but I am broadcast on my YouTube and on my Facebook. So either way, you should be able to get me. But more better information will be on my YouTube, and so you can be able to see the images that will be shown. So if you can go to my YouTube, you will get a great pictures of the images because I couldn't put the images on my Facebook. But however, if you go to my YouTube, you will know the actors which I'm going to be talking about this evening. I want to thank all of you that are tuning in here again. My name is Funton Daniel. Thank you for watching. It is quite amazing that the people of Southern Cameroon and Ambazonian, despite the fact that many actors are just swimming around, but guess what is suffering? The people of Southern Cameroon and Ambazonian. The bleeding is still continuing in Southern Cameroon and Ambazonian. But I want to take a moment to bring attention that those actors that are currently engaged in this crisis in Southern Cameroon, many of you may not know exactly what is going on. What is Southern Cameroon? Southern Cameroon was a former British colony, and La Republique was a former French colony. And so there is ongoing crisis that the people of Southern Cameroon are being unconsciously executed by a foreign nation, La Republique du Cameroun. Despite all this and despite engagement of so many actors that are going around about this crisis, no one has brought a solution to the crisis. And yet, guess what? La Republique continue to massacre citizens of Southern Cameroon. Not only do they massacre, but others are in jail in La Republique. And when you ask the legality of La Republique over the citizens of Southern Cameroon, of course, that is the plain truth. Nobody can acknowledge that La Republique du Cameroun has no legality over the citizens of Southern Cameroon. It is a fact. It is a reality. But yet, the force is just like you have your children and the child says, daddy or mommy, I can't eat the food you prepare. You say, you must eat it. The child eat the food and vomit, which means in medical terms, someone will say, the child is allergic to that food. Of course, that indicates to you that that child cannot eat that food. You, as a mom or dad, will acknowledge that that child cannot eat that food. So the people of Southern Cameroon cannot live together with La Republique du Cameroun. That is a clear fact. That is a clear reality. The people of Southern Cameroon and the people of La Republique are people of different cultural upbringing, language, political, religion, everything is contrary. The form of government, the rule of government, the rule of law, the arm of government is inconsistency with La Republique du Cameroun. Why can the international community understand that the people of Southern Cameroon can live together with La Republique? That is a clean and clear statement. But however, they are just dancing over. It's just like there is a 6 questions, and the answer is multiple choice. And there is a clear answer to that multiple choice. And you understand that this is the answer to that multiple choice. And you turn around and drift around playing over time, instead of knowing that this is the answer of that multiple choice. And if you choose the wrong answer, you cannot win that, you cannot get that test right. So that is the clean and clear. The people of Southern Cameroon has asked La Republique, leave Southern Cameroon. That is the plea. La Republique has no legality whatsoever to control the people of Southern Cameroon. Right now that I'm speaking, you might look, if you are on my YouTube, the image might not be shown here. You have the Commonwealth Secretary General. The Commonwealth Secretary General is in La Republique. It's not the first time the Commonwealth Secretary General is in La Republique. We have the Francophonie, which is another version of Commonwealth, which is represent the Francophone or the French speaking, is also in La Republique du Cameroun as I'm speaking. Another member of those delegations is the OAU Secretary General, which you all listen, that is controlled by France. The OAU Secretary General, one will expect them to be a fundamental representation of African value. But unfortunately, that OAU Secretary General is an organ of a French colony, and that focus on France rather than the interests of Africa that is concerned. And yet, as you may see, if you happen to be on my YouTube, you will look at the images below. You will realize that those are the massacre. That's just a twink of an eye of the massacre that is being carried out, perpetrated by La Republique du Cameroun in Southern Cameroon. Yet, it doesn't draw attention to any other community. You look, La Republique just dispatched a delegation to meet the U.S. Undersecretary for African Affairs to ask for an extension of visa against the massacre they are being perpetrated in Southern Cameroon. What is the false assumption? They believe that if U.S. Undersecretary for African Affairs can extend the visa so that they will take an opportunity to invade Southern Cameroon and capture the territory, and then to come and tell the world that we are now controlled. And that is why that's their mission here in the United States, to ask for an extension of visa so that they can take advantages and crush the Southern Cameroon, murder mothers, children, including pregnancy women that are in Southern Cameroon. This is absolutely the world that one will expect the world community to stand for justice, speak the truth, stand for the truth. Do good for the greatest number, not just for the greatest few. Doing good for the greatest number, not just for the few. And that is why La Republique is currently in United States. Delegation from La Republique is currently meeting with the Undersecretary for African Affairs, because United States look like they are still sluggish to take action on La Republique. And so they are looking for all means to delay United States interventions. And guess what is going on? The massacre continues. Why do we have to arrive here? It's simple. La Republique do not own Southern Cameroon. La Republique does not control part of Southern Cameroon. La Republique does not own the territory. Understand. It was the fraudulence of the British government over the people of Southern Cameroon. Imagine the United Nations says all those territories that were mandated under colonial rule be prepared for immediate independence. So therefore, La Republique should have been prepared for independence by Francophonie, by France, which also a member of the United Nations after the 1945 war. British should have mandated Southern Cameroon for their immediate independence because they were under the colony. However, British ignored this fact. British deliberately ignored. And it is not only just Southern Cameroon, this crisis. I will expect the British government should have learned a lesson to understand that when a colonial territory that under different administration, when they grew matured, they no longer need to be pushed on under the control of another nation. And that is exactly what is happening in Shanghai, China. What is happening in Shanghai, China? Of course, the Hong Kong, which is still the Hong Kong, which are more specifically, Hong Kong British signed an accord with China that after 150 years colonial control of Hong Kong, they shall be returned to China. First of all, British should understand that the British economic policy, the justice system, and the rule of law is contrary to the Chinese form of government. And so therefore, by inadvertently choose to hand over to China is absolutely ridiculous. And that is what is causing the trouble that you find now in Hong Kong. And the same apply in Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon should have been given their independence. The British representative or the British Colonial Administrative Authority or the British Administrative Officer, they were asked, there were three options that they should have. Do you opt for an independent? There were two options instead of three options. Do you opt for an independent by joining Nigeria, or do you opt for an independent by joining La Republique? The third option, which was the most crucial, which was deliberately and intentionally ignored by the British administrator during the conference, that do you opt for an independent? In a monthly conference, after the so-called plebiscite, a conference was held in Monthly in 1959, August 8 to 10 1959. The purpose of the meeting of the conference was to institute that Southern Cameroon should have the option to leave. They should have the option to leave La Republique. That option was deliberately removed intentionally by Sir Philip, who is the British administrative authority in Southern Cameroon, who was based in Nigeria. And this is what has brought us, our people, to this nightmare that we continue massacre our citizens, and that the truth has deliberately ignored, because the world power on the false assumption that the people of Southern Cameroon must be under the umbrella of a foreign country, La Republique du Cameroun. And that is why you see the massacre and the murder rate that is going on in Southern Cameroon. Let's look. You all see, this is just a tip of an iceberg of the rate of murdering that is going on in Southern Cameroon. Each day there either a woman pregnant shot. Each day there either someone being killed. And this is being orchestrated by La Republique terrorist military. that is currently massacring civilian population in southern Cameroon. Let's take, for example, you have the territorial administration minister who is an ex-convict of La Republique, who is an ex-convict of the New Bay prison, is in charge of a territorial administration ministry in the neighboring country La Republique du Cameroun, whom they claim that is a citizen of southern Cameroon that owns specifically absolutely zero value to the citizens of southern Cameroon. So all these delegations, they have been rushing to meet Paul Biya. All of this, they have met Biya not once, at least twice. But one thing is certain is that they don't understand that dictatorship do not understand conversation. There must be a threat to a dictator that this is what I am going to be doing to you should you fail to do this. And I think that should be on the table. Not just going there and tell you, okay, what have you done? Okay, this is what we're going to... No, a dictator needs to have a consequences. That should be on the table. That this is the consequence we are prepared to do if you fail to do so. I'm sure they should understand this. And they should have learned a lesson that this is the value that whether it's the Francophonie or the Commonwealth of Nations or Tibor, Nagy, other suspension and all this doesn't have any consequence of any dictatorship. There should be something attached to it that they know, and it should have a time frame, and it should have a deadline. It's essential that the United States put this on the line as a prerequisite to Paul Biya regime, because they don't understand. Because in the end, people are killed. In the end, the truth are ignored. Why must the people of Southern Cameroon be massacred when the plain truth is there? When the United Nations voted to recognize La Republique in January 1960, Southern Cameroon territory was not part of that document. When, I repeat again, when the United Nations voted in 1960, January 1960, to recognize La Republique as a sovereign nation, the people of Southern Cameroon wasn't part of that document, and therefore have no legal authority binding that La Republique must be in control of Southern Cameroon. Likewise, in 1961, when the United Nations voted to recognize the Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation, although there was a bias by the British administration at the time, La Republique wasn't part of that territory. And so, therefore, why should La Republique be the one to give a special status to the people whom they have the same equal status? It was voted by the United Nations, the same body. Why must La Republique provide a special status unto the people of Southern Cameroon? That is the great question that I am asking all these that are watching. Because the plain truth, if you are driving, for those who happen to be here in the United States, if you are speeding and you are stopped, the police immediately tell you your crime because you are speeding in a distance that have a certain limit. Therefore, you are punished because you failed to observe. So therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon, what is their crime? Their territory they own, their land they own, the United Nations that voted in 1961, La Republique, they have their own territory, and yet they have massacred our citizens of Southern Cameroon, and the world just want to acknowledge that they have an obligation to do so. Because France is the beneficiary that every property of Southern Cameroon must benefit them. We have a refinery. F. Sereka, for those who are aware, Seneca is operated by the French government because the oil is cheaper in France than in Victoria, in Southern Cameroon. But yet, the oil is produced in Southern Cameroon because it's benefiting the French. And that is why the France has the audacity to send their war vessels to anchorage in La Republique, because they are the liaison on behalf of France, so that raw material can be drained from Africa and directed to the pocket of France. Fellow Africans, let's open our eyes and think again. Let's open our eyes and think. Are we really slaves to France? Are we France slavery? Of course, imagine that United States going through the same crisis against British, no taxation without a representation. And it is because of the freedom that the United States fought several hundred years ago to become what it is today. And yet, we are the beneficiaries for this opportunity that was created for those who stood for injustice. And yet, all of us, we want to ignore the reality because we are afraid to take on France, and that France we become a graduate land that benefits France, while our brothers and sisters are suffering. Of course, let me refer back to Russian president. Russian president said, the mineral in Africa is rich by mineral, but yet Europe is more the beneficiary that gains all the mineral. Let's take one for example. Why should African currency or African reserve be kept in France? Why should African reserve be kept in France? So we are not mature enough to keep our own reserve. France has to keep our own reserve for them to preserve our own reserve, and that we are incapable. Let's take for example, when you live despite the fact that 500 billion a year are being deliberately and put in French treasury, and yet, can you leave Africa and go to France without a visa? Do they recognize that we do? Can you leave Africa and travel to France without a visa? Do they understand that the revenue that affects France are from Africa, and yet you cannot leave Africa and travel to France without a visa? But they control our resources. They control our revenue. They control our money. Maybe it's time Africa needs to rise and say no to France colonialism. No, this is what we must stand for as a strong and more than ever before. And tell France, let's end this colonialism. Let us have our own central bank. Let's have our own money be managed in Africa. If France needs diamond, and they need diamond, they will obviously trade it with African currency in exchange. Because what France does is that, let's take for example, the United States decide to offer 500,000 US dollars as a gift to probably La Republique or to Nigeria. So what France does, it takes the money and put in France treasury and then allocate the amount in your local currency that is less than the amount the United States offer. And then you will be paying interest to the French treasury. In other words, you are paying double jeopardy. You are paying money that was given to you free, but you are paying interest to French treasury. They call caisse communautaire française. What a damaging effect. Please, Africa, arise, arise. It's the moment that we must stand and say no to French colonialism. We have to stand and say no. This is Africa's century that we must rise and say no to France. Yes. This is the time. We must rise and say no to France colonialism. We have to stand as a one people and say no. A no is the no. Let's create our own currency. If we have our own currency, if France needs diamond, they will exchange with the African currency, not French treasury. If they need bauxite, they will exchange with the African currency. We should deviate from this slavery that we believe that we must be controlled by France. If we do the right thing, we will expect, instead of us graduating many religious philosophers first, let's graduate scientists. Somebody talked on my Facebook and said, China banned religious this thing. It's because it's a fanatic. I am sorry to accept it. They are fanatics. They just destabilize the fundamental principles of Africa. Africa spend more days praying for spiritual rather than spend more days on scientific research. And guess what happened? France will continue to produce high-level equipment. And we are praying every day and waiting for miracle to come. Miracle will not come. We have to create a miracle. This is Africa. We need to change our belief system and focus more on science. Science will never lie us. Fellow Africa, are we awake? Let's look. Despite the number of massacres that is being carried on by La Republique, do you think France cares? So long as he is able to get the oil mineral that is being generated in Southern Cameroon. That is what France value most. They value less of what is being killed, human being. But they value the mineral because that's the gold they're going to pocket in them and save them. And yet Africa are the less beneficiary. But fellow African, I am going to continue on this message and this crusade. We got to let go of France. We got to let go of France because this is the beginning of new change of revolution. Let's let go of France and we can do this together. We can do this. This brutal dictatorship that embodies under the control of France. The French currency, is it printed in Africa? Can you travel to France without a visa? Of course not. But France can travel to Africa because they control the policy. But it's time we need to create the policy that favors Africa, for the interest of Africa. This is the moment that Africa must rise and say no to colonialism. At this 21st century, Africa still rely on foreign domination. Fellow brothers and sisters, we can do this together. Let's take, for example, when United States went into financial crisis, when the United States went into financial crisis some few years ago, they did not went to World Bank to borrow. United States did not go to World Bank to borrow. United States went to their own central bank, which is found here in the United States, and asked them to relocate money. And that money was allocated to various banks, and then they start afloat the businesses, and then the crisis was diminished. They did not go to French central bank. So Africa are rushing to central bank, which is a fundamental tool by the French that are used. Create your own currency. If France needs diamond, if Germany needs diamond, if Britain needs diamond, they will exchange it because they don't have it. Because we have it, then we have to exchange on those goods and services. So therefore, our currency must be valued. Before we must achieve this goal and objectives, we must have a fundamental rule of law that must stand. We understand how the world are doing, but we fail to yield to the moral justice because we have been brainwashed and we believe that heaven is coming from France. Heaven is not coming from France. Heaven is coming from us. And we need to change the dynamic and the culture of our thinking. Instead of us graduating 500 pastors, let's graduate 500 engineers. Let's graduate 6,000 Supreme Court justices. Let's graduate 5,000 engineers, because they are the value that will make a significant differences on Africa continent. China can compete with the rest of the world because they are doing the right thing. When will Africa arise to do the right thing? I think this is the moment. Instead of creating university that will graduate senior divisional officer, let's create university that will graduate scientists, because they are the moral value that will create a distinctive Africa that will compete with the rest of the other planet. Fellow brothers and sisters, I am going to continue with this crusade. I want to take your time. I want to thank you. Have a good night. This is Funtan Daniel speaking live from the great state of Texas. Fellow Ambazonian, we are at war. This war of Ambazonia is a new advent that will change the cultural heritage of Africa, because they thought Africa was a ground that they can go harvesting. But I am here to remind that we, the Ambazonia, will change the cultural heritage of Africa and change the cultural dynamic and renovate and revamp the entire system of Africa, so the world will understand where Africa is. We are the African, but yet we have the zero tolerance, because they teach us how to graduate many pastors that we can graduate many scientists. This is the moment, this is our time, and that we must change the culture, because these all individuals that we have them, they call president, they're out of the range of value to the African as a whole. But we must change the dynamic, and we began by the young generation, that we can change this cultural dynamic by reinvent Africa for the new millennium. Thank you, and have a wonderful good night.